Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the
Everybody
procedure,
stay calm.
everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm.
Wait.
Everybody calm down.
Stellaris First Contact has been announced. We now know the name of the latest DLC coming for this game. I am very surprised, mainly with the fact that this is not going to be a full DLC. This is not going to be the big kahunas that we get once a year. Instead, for the first time since 2019, we are getting our hands on a brand new story pack. We have a brand new trailer and a whole bunch of different screenshots to go through that host a variety of delectable inclusions that we're going to be getting if we pick up this brand new story pack. Before we go any further though, I do need to mention that some of this is going to seem a little bit disjointed, and that's because, in essence, there are two sets of information that I have used in order to create this video. First, there is the leaked information that's been out since yesterday, and then there is the actual release that came just a few moments ago, and I will be intersplicing those two bits of information where I can. I apologize if it is a little confusing. I might say something where I speculate and then immediately say, and the speculation is right, but that's simply going to be the nature of this video. Please bear with me. Let's get through this wild ride together. First off, let's look into the description for this new DLC. First Contact offers a set of new origins and mechanics that give players the chance to tell stories about their civilization's early encounters with visitors from the stars, ones that may not have come in peace. Now, to break that down, that means we're getting quite a bit out of this story pack. Let's look at the origins first. Now, it says origins plural. So far, we only have a screenshot of the very first origin that we're going to be getting, and that is the Broken Shackles origin. Free at last. In this origin, you're going to be playing on a planet where your empire, or the people, the citizens that make up your empire, started off as slaves. They started off as slaves sold into indentured servitude. In secret, the slaves planned an uprising, a revolt, a mutiny, and they succeeded in their mutiny on a slave ship, but that slave ship was then critically damaged and was forced to make an emergency landing on the planet that you now call your home planet. This is a really interesting origin because you seem to have not just one species, even though it does show just the Yondar here. You seem to have many different species. Though we are made up of species from many different worlds, under the leadership of our government, we have found common cause. In time, the damaged systems of the slaver vessel will be repaired, and its bounty of secrets, including the location of our former homeworlds, will be revealed. So I believe this is another AI spawning origin where you will get not just your old homeworlds and therefore other empires out there. Possibly they are independent empires, or more likely you'll get a large slaver empire with lots of planets which used to be your homeworld but are now under the slavers' control. And that gives you a great impetus for storytelling, because what you'll probably want to do is go and free the rest of your people, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters, your mothers, your fathers left behind on your homeworld. Our shackles are broken, now the work begins. So this, I think, is an exciting origin, but I believe it is only one origin of the plural origins we will be getting with this new DLC. And I have to assume, unlike Broken Shackles, at least some of these origins are going to be centered around First Contact, or at least Primitive Uplift in some way. Maybe you can start the game as a recently uplifted Primitive Empire. Future Montu here, so we have actually heard now there is more than one origin. There are three. Broken Shackles I have just covered, then there is also Payback and Fear of the Dark. Payback is another challenging origin like Broken Shackles, which both revolve around the struggles of empires against the oppressive Minimar specialized industries. This does indicate that the Minimar are going to be a pre-scripted race we're going to be seeing across the galaxy. While a third standard origin, Fear of the Dark, examines the fine line between paranoia and prudence. I can only assume that has some deep dark forest connotations in it, and something that possibly is a little bit reminiscent of the three-body problem and that great bulk of fiction there. As befits any story pack, all three of these origins coming with First Contact are heavily narrative focused. Now we get what could possibly be a new megastructure in the game, though I am doubtful if it is a megastructure because this item, this space station or spaceborne vehicle, because maybe it can move, I'm not entirely convinced it can move, but maybe it can move. This is actually featured in the trailer, so let's actually quickly, while we have a moment, if you haven't seen the trailer, let's dive in and take a look. If you have, I will put chapters in so you can skip ahead. As you could see from that trailer, right at the end, this vehicle seems to warp into existence or appear above the planet as the primitives are being uplifted, as they're being welcomed into the galactic civilization by the Minimar. And we've heard of the Minimar last week in the dev diary. I will put a link to a video that covers that one, that dev diary, and who the Minimar are, or at least the information we have on them so far. But this vehicle seems to appear, it doesn't seem to have been built. That leads me to believe it is actually some sort of mobile vehicle that can move, and I have to assume it is somehow related to the uplift process. Perhaps it is specific to the Minimar. Maybe we're getting a pre-scripted alien empire now in the game. I suspect this also could be part of that origin that we haven't seen, if not possibly more than one origin, which will include primitive uplift. So I really don't think that this is a megastructure, given what we've seen in the trailer. But then again, maybe art and the reality are two quite different things here, though that would be out of character for Paradox to create a piece of trailer artwork where something happened that wasn't in line with the in-game lore and what was actually mechanically going on. Do let me know what you think about this vehicle though, or megastructure, in the comments below. I would love to hear about your speculation. And now we get to a really interesting slide. There are two ways you could interpret this particular image that has been included on the Steam page. Either possibility A, the very sad possibility, is that this is some continuation of the ghost ship event chain, and we're now going to be getting ghost ships for things like destroyers rather than just scientists. That is a possibility. That's what this image could represent. The much more exciting possibility is that we're now going to be getting cloaking in the game. Yes, you heard me right, ladies and gentlemen. Stealth ships may be coming to Stellaris if we pick up the First Contact DLC, because this could be a ship in the process of cloaking. How could that work in game? Well, as the fact that it is a computer game, it's very easy for one of our fleets to be obscured or hidden if you don't have enough intel on that specific fleet, and perhaps we're going to be able to put stealth module and cloak modules so we can fulfill all of our Klingon and Romulan fantasies to our heart's content. If that is the case, if we are getting stealth ships, this is also going to be quite an interesting strategic change to the way warfare works. What if these stealth ships cost more to build, cost more to maintain, but we can sneak them behind our enemy lines and get past FTL inhibitors in the middle of a war? That could represent a key strategic decision. Do I want to have a large regular navy, or do I want to have some of these stealth ships? Interesting stuff could be in store for us very soon after the recent combat rework. And the fact that we have had that combat rework would lead me to think that they have been building other things for combat too that we may be getting in some of these DLC. Hence, why the Custodians spent so much time on the rework. There is, of course, also going to be a rework to the way that we deal with I don't think First Contact itself, that's a relatively new system that came in with Nemesis, but the way we deal with primitive First Contact, I do believe that may be about to change. And I think that we're going to be getting not just a reworking of the system, probably with lots more of events added, maybe some things will now be situations, that sort of stuff, so we're going to be getting a lot more depth with our primitive interactions. And we can see that here with The Journey Begins. We are witnessing the inhabitants of insert name taking their first steps towards enlightenment. They look upwards, opening themselves to the mysteries of the universe. As artistic expression develops within their culture, so does art's power to capture the spiritual striving of their society. They yearn for something beyond themselves to believe in. Acknowledged, or we shall answer their prayers. We don't get to see what those options do, but very interesting nonetheless. There is something to note here is that possibly, because this is a capital, this is part of one of the origins, though I think it could be included in the rework I'm almost certain we're going to be getting for primitives themselves, primitive civilizations, and how we as the players can interact with them. I think we're going to be getting a lot more depth. I mean, that would be massively hinted in not just the name of the DLC, but everything we've heard so far around it. And if you're enjoying this video, please uplift that primitive like button. And to further back up my point that we are having some sort of primitive rework to the way all of our primitives exist in the universe, I think primitives are now going to be getting another stage. This image here clearly shows a bunch of spaceships flying around, and what can we see from these spaceships? Well, it's not a full ship set, I don't believe, because two of them are completely identical. They look to be spaceships generated through events in-game, special spaceships. We've seen those before in other places, for instance around Polaris, all sorts of places where there are some unique ship models. I think we're going to be getting that, and I think this could be a number of different things. So let's look at these images. Well, first off, the image in the foreground, the ship in the foreground of the image is clearly it is a bit of an advanced ship, I suppose, compared to today on Earth, the modern 21st century Earth. But for Stellaris, that's pretty backwards. Clearly, they don't have artificial gravity because we've got two things. I've forgotten the word for these, but two kind of spokes around this central axis, and I would assume it's rotating, which may be how they are generating some form of gravity through centrifugal forces. On the other hand, behind these two ships, we have a ship with what looks to have a massive heat shield on the front, and at the back, that looks to be a massive chemical motor. Possibly it could also be, I suppose, an ion engine of some sort, the back end of a ram scoop, but we don't have something scooping up ions at the front, so I'm not entirely convinced. It looks to be one big chemical propulsion unit. Or possibly, I mean, it's hard to see, maybe it's a pusher plate, something a bit more like Project Orion, but needless to say, what do these ships represent in my opinion? Well, I think after we get to the space age with pre-FTL primitive civilizations, we will have another age included, a pre-FTL age. An age where the primitives have ships in their own system, possibly even warships, flying around at sublight speeds, but they have not yet invented faster than light travel. And that could mean we could enter a system with an enemy, or not just sorry, that was a bit of a Freudian slip there, with a new species to be encountered, a native species to that system that can't leave the system. Yes, easy pickings for a large galactic empire, but a small empire just starting out with only a few ships may actually not be able to overtake them. This could also mean that we are going to have generation ships, possibly maybe 10, 20, 30 years after a species reaches the pre-FTL age, before they have FTL in this kind of in-between after the space age, where normally they just get a little space station flying around their home planet, but maybe in that age they can start sending out generation ships, and then perhaps we'll get ships spawning in adjacent systems, and they might colonize a planet or two there and have something flying around, but they can't return home. They are only sublight ships. That would be really interesting. I can imagine that sort of thing, given this is a story pack, may be added because we're going to be getting a lot more depth, which is something that those of us that have not had a story pack for a long time have been really missing out on, is additional events, additional stories that Stellaris can tell us. We also have 4 new civics, one for both regular bioempires and the megacorps, as well as the 2 Gestalt consciousness authorities. These are low technology civics that can change the way one takes one's first steps to the stars, or alternatively, how you will interact with any pre-FTL civilizations you find. The images here are rather interesting. We have what looks to definitely be some sort of I'll sell you spaceships for the Megacorp civilization's ethic. Then for the regular bioempires, it looks more to be kind of a praise the divine. And that image there in the middle of that Civic does very much look like the new kind of possible megastructure, possible device that we have seen both in the trailer and shown off in that screenshot. So perhaps that is where you get your hands on one of those new mega kajiggers. Whereas the Gestalt ones do seem to look very, very much like it's all about observation. We have what is clearly a microscope or a magnifying glass, even I should say, over a doggo, and that's kind of cute. That might be why we got all those doggo teases earlier from the dev diaries. And then the hive mind one looks very much to be some sort of eye. And in the middle of the eye, though, in the middle of the eye, that could again be this large structure we have seen. Though I'd be surprised if the Gestalts were uplifting non-Gestalt primitives. Maybe we're going to be getting Gestalt primitives. Oh, that would be wild, wouldn't it? Oh, and they also are definitely confirming that we are getting stealth ships, which is absolutely fantastic. And finally, the last thing I do want to cover briefly is the leaky nature of this release. Yes, some interesting things have been going on. We got Stellaris Toxoids was kind of inadvertently leaked a little bit earlier, or at least the fact of its existence was through some very scrupulous means by people paying attention to the Wikipedia page and looking at the edit log. Well, something similar happened for Stellaris First Contact. What we had was Steam database. If you go back through the logs, and I'll link this below if you're really desperate to have a look. Somebody seemed to upload a whole bunch of things yesterday. For me, that is the 16th of September at around 10:40 a.m. UTC. 4 or 5 hours later, that was all taken down. However, on the Steam database, everything was still available and has been available to look at for about the last 24 hours. Now, the reason this video has not come to you sooner was that I reached out to the Stellaris team and asked them what was going on, and they assured me that it's probably best if I wait because more information is coming very, very soon, information that is critical to this release, like the information I added, such as those extra origins, the civics, all of those things that had I jumped the gun, I would not have been able to bring you. So thank you, Mordred. He is the community manager for Stellaris, who I had a great conversation with earlier today, setting the record straight. I don't believe this was intentional, though. If we get a third leak with Stellaris DLC happening at that point, I'll be convinced there is a pattern and this whole thing is a marketing ploy. Until that point, I think there might have just been a few butterfingers in certain places, maybe a little bit of a mistake. But needless to say, I hope you're as excited as I am that we're getting a new story pack. Wow, I can't believe I actually get to say that as a content creator, as a YouTuber. That's wild. It's been a long time. I also think this may mean we'll be getting another DLC around the summertime. The big, meaty expansion DLC that we usually get once a year. So more information will be coming from Paradox on Thursday in just 2 days' time on First Contact. Watch the skies for more news. Until then, if you'd like to know more about the Minimar Specialized Industries and the message we've received so far, click the video on screen now.